Hello everyone and welcome into Coach Craig's Sports. This is the NBA DFS video for today, Tuesday, December 5th. If you are joining me for the very first time, this is how today's video will be structured. There won't be a recap since we just did a slate breakdown yesterday. Since there was only two games, same thing's going to be happening today. We're going to look at the injuries in play, then we're going to go over to DraftKings and FanDuel and take a little bit of a look at the slate in totality, going position by position, just giving you guys my thoughts on each player. I know there's a couple people out here who don't like this, but it's a little bit harder to do core picks. You're going to have to mix and match, play a little bit lighter on these smaller slates, or you're going to have to go mass entry and get exposure to as many guys as possible. That's kind of the two ways that you can approach the slate overall. But without further ado, we'll get into those injuries for today. So for the New York Knicks, it's just Evan Fournier and Daquan Jeffries, both listed as questionable. Both are dealing with illnesses. Both are not in the rotation either way, so no effect on this game overall tonight. And then for the Milwaukee Bucks, we got Pat Connaughton, Jay Crowder remaining out, and then Andre Jackson Jr. listed as questionable. He may or may not play a couple minutes here and there if he's able to go, but not anybody that we do want to play for DFS purposes. So Bucks look pretty similar to what we've seen in recent games. For the Phoenix Suns, we have Bradley Beal and Damon Lee both listed as out. Devin Booker is good to go tonight, so that is something important to note there, although his price tag is pretty high up there on both sides. Does have the high-end upside, but looks more like a GPP upside type of play. And then we have Eric Gordon listed as questionable. I believe he's dealing with a knee injury, so if he's unable to go, probably get like Josh Okogie in that starting lineup, but we'll see whether or not he ultimately ends up playing tonight or not. And then we move over to Lakers side. Gabe Vincent's out. LeBron James listed as questionable due to that calf, but he has yet to miss a game, I think, because of that injury. So the fact that he keeps being listed as questionable, especially in a game like this, is just kind of ridiculous at this point in time. Then we have Anthony Davis, Rui Hachimura, and Jared Vanderbilt all listed as probable, all expected to play for tonight. So nothing too major in terms of injuries for today's slate overall. Eric Gordon's probably going to be the biggest one. You know, if we get somebody else kind of ruled out throughout the day, that could change some value a little bit here and there. But with that being said, we'll get moved over to DraftKings and talk about the slate. So we're going to go to the point guard position first. So Devin Booker's at the top, $10,100. You can play him at point guard or shooting guard. Helps a little bit on the DraftKings side that you can play him at point guard as well. Since point guard's not the strongest today, I wish that was the case on FanDuel, that you could play him at point guard over there, because you have to play 2 point guards just starting off. Once again, there is some pretty decent high-end upside there. A little bit scarier coming off that injury. So more of that GPP upside type of play for me in general. You could probably say the same thing about Damian Lillard, $9,300. You need at least 47 out of him. He's averaging about 44 on the season. It's not the greatest matchup in the world, so he's more of that GPP upside type of guy. You know, he's that guy that could go out there and be Mr. Clutch and put up a big game, so definitely wouldn't rule that out. And then we get down to Jalen Brunson, $8,500. Probably my favorite point guard on today's slate overall. You know, you're looking for 42, 43 out of him. Pace up spot versus the Bucks, averaging about 41 so far in the season. Has some pretty strong upside that we've seen as of late. He's been playing pretty well lately as well. And then we got D'Angelo Russell, $6,700, looking for 33, 34 out of him, averaging 34 on the season. Should be a pretty back and forth game between the Suns. As long as he doesn't lose minutes, like, because he's not playing well, he's going to look like a pretty solid play overall. Obviously, Bradley Beal's out. Eric Gordon, though, if he plays, not too interested in him at $5,900. Just a little bit too pricey. Quickly has that high-end upside at $5,200. But how many minutes does he get in this game? He's a guy that is super streaky, so if he's out there, if he's playing well, he's going to look pretty good. So he's mainly a GPP upside type of play. Not really interested in Jonathan Goodwin. You know, you could probably get to him a little bit if Eric Gordon's out, but it's nothing I'm too crazy about. And then, you know, if you want to mix in campaign at $4,100, you could do it, but that's kind of the only like pay down option that we really do have at their point guard spot. And it'll be interesting to see how many minutes he actually gets in tonight's game. Probably be like 14 to 16 at that. Then we move over to the shooting guard spot. We already talked about Devin Booker. Bradley Beal's obviously out. Austin Reeves, $6,300. If he's out there, if he's playing well, if he closes this game, has a chance to pay off. Still looks like more of a GPP upside type of play at this point in time. Then we have Chris Middleton, shooting guard, small forward eligible, $6,000. The minutes are the biggest question mark for him. If he can go out there, if he can play 28 minutes, he's going to look really good at this price tag. However, if he goes out there and only plays 25, probably not going to be the greatest for you overall, but he's definitely a guy to consider just in general. Malik Beasley's played a lot of minutes for them as of late at $5,700. Played pretty well, so he's definitely a guy that you can throw out there as a lineup filler for sure. Grayson Allen, $5,400. He probably looks a little bit better if Eric Gordon's out tonight. Just means one less guy to fight him for closing time, but should go out there, play big minutes. If he's knocking his shots down, could definitely pay off. Talked about quickly already. For Cam Reddish, the biggest thing for him is just whether or not he's going to close or not and get those minutes. Could definitely pay off at $4,700, kind of a pay down option there at that. You could look at Max Christie below him at 44, although I think Max Christie's minutes are going to get cut tonight just with the overall nature of these games, treating him more like a playoff rotation just in general. Dante DiVincenzo, if quickly doesn't pay off, it's probably DiVincenzo getting those minutes and paying off. So $4,400. Not a bad price tag there for a pay down spot. Then we got Quentin Grimes down here, $3,800. If you really, really want to go to him, hope he gets hot shooting the ball, at least early on, gets a couple extra minutes that way. That is something you could do. Not going to pay off probably most of the time, but definitely an option out there. And then I don't think anybody else down here is worth talking about. So we'll move over to small forward. And small forward at the top, you got LeBron James, $9,600. He's going to project really well tonight. So looking for 48 out of him, averaging about 47.5 on the season. Maybe gets a couple extra minutes in this game too. So, currently have him projected for about 48, 49. He's going to look like a pretty good play overall. I think him and Kevin Durant would be my two favorite pay-up options at this point in time. Then when we get down to RJ Barrett, $6,200. If he plays a couple extra minutes, he could definitely pay off at this price tag. But at this point in time, that's kind of up in the air since he's been right around 30 minutes per game most of the season. Then we already talked about Middleton and Allen. So we get down to Josh Hart, $5,300. Does have some upside there. Decent spot here. As long as he's getting the minutes and he's out there, he's going to look pretty decent. So more of a lineup filler, maybe a little bit of a GPP upside type of guy. Then we have Taurean Prince. If he's out there, if he's playing big minutes, he doesn't look too bad as a pay down option at $4,600. Like him a little bit better on the FanDuel side, though, where he's a little bit cheaper. We talked about Christie and DiVincenzo. Josh Okogie, if he gets the start, is definitely a pay down option at $4,300. I guess technically the same thing could be said about Keita Bates-Diop. This is kind of assuming Eric Gordon's out and one of these two guys ends up starting, then they could look pretty good in that spot. Not really interested in Quentin Grimes unless he goes out there and gets hot. Not interested in Nas Little. And I think that's pretty much it at small forward for today overall. You got Marshawn Beauchamp here, but $3,400 probably plays, 14 minutes in this game, but really not the greatest fantasy point per minute guy. So probably not going to pay off more times than that as well. So we'll get moved over to power forward. We got Giannis at the top. He's $11,400. Probably going to be a little bit harder to get to him today just at that price tag because you're going to have to pay down at other spots, and the pay down options aren't that great overall today. But definitely has some decent upside. Obviously, Giannis can go out there and dominate on any given slate, so it is a risk to kind of fade him, but I think going from him to LeBron and Kevin Durant is going to be the better option today overall. Anthony Davis does get power forward eligibility back on DraftKings today, which is kind of interesting, but $10,000 makes him pretty interesting on both sites. You're looking for 50 out of him. I got him projected for about 52, 53 tonight, so definitely going to be a good option there. So that's another reason it probably makes it harder to get to Giannis is Anthony Davis, Kevin Durant, LeBron James all look so good tonight. And then Kevin Durant is $9,900. Definitely have a lot of interest in him once again. Moving down, we get to Julius Randle, $8,700. Pace up spot versus the Bucks. Definitely have some interest in him. You're looking for 43 out of him. He's averaging 43.5 essentially on the season. And that pace up spot, so definitely has some pretty strong upside here as well. Another guy that's kind of, that $8,000 to $10,000 range. Those are the guys that are kind of looking the best today instead of paying all the way up to the tippy top just in general. And then we get down to Bobby Portis, $5,600, just mainly a GPP upside type of play. If he goes out there, he plays pretty well, in like his 24 minutes or whatever he gets. Definitely could pay off, but it's a little bit more risk than some of these other guys. Rui Hachimura is down here at $4,500, kind of a pay down option. So he was available in their last game, but played 0 minutes in that game. So it is a risk at that. Probably not a guy I'm really getting to too much today, but if he goes out there and he plays some minutes, he could definitely pay off. Then we get down to Jared Vanderbilt, who also returned in their most recent game, $3,500, played 14 minutes. He didn't do too much in terms of fantasy or DFS scoring, but if he's out there, if he plays decent-sized minutes at $3,500, probably going to look like one of the better paydown options overall today. So definitely have some interest in him. I think everybody else that's kind of here is not really worth talking about at this point in time. Then we'll get moved over to center position. Mainly, you're looking at the 4 centers that are going to start tonight. And, we talked about Anthony Davis already. Joseph Nurkic, mainly a GPP upside type of play. He's played pretty well as of late. But the 2 games versus the Lakers, he didn't have the greatest game. So part of that's Anthony Davis, although he hasn't been that great on defense so far this season. So Nurkic could definitely pay off, but there is some risk to be had with him. I don't mind Brook Lopez here at $6,400. Does have some decent GPP upside. And then we get down to Mitchell Robinson. He's probably my favorite center play today at $5,500 if you're not getting Anthony Davis, that is. So as long as he stays out of foul trouble, he's going to have decent sized minutes. Probably going to get you at least 28 points at that $5,500 price tag. So he's going to look really good overall. If you think he gets in foul trouble, you could look at Hartenstein at $4,300. But I really only think he's going to play like 14-15 minutes tonight unless Mitchell Robinson gets into foul trouble. Drew Eubanks, definitely an interesting paydown option at $4,200 if they go to him over Nurkic in that game. Could ultimately end up paying off. Or, if Nurkic gets in foul trouble against Anthony Davis, that is an option that happens. Christian Wood's really just a dart throw if you think he plays enough minutes tonight. Same thing could be said with Jackson Hayes. Metu's another guy that's been playing a little bit as of late. $3,300 might get cut from the rotation, but if you really want to take that dart throw, you could do it. But mainly for the center position, like I said, it's going to be the 4 guys that are starting for these 4 teams overall. But with that being said, that's a quick little rundown on the DraftKings side. It's going to be an interesting 2-game main slate. Feel free to go out there, get creative. These games are going to be pretty interesting, especially seeing the rotations that these teams ultimately do end up running at the end of the day. But with that being said, we'll get moved over to FanDuel and do a breakdown over there as well. So we're going to start off at the point guard position. We got Damian Lillard. He's the same price tag on both sides. Definitely looks like an interesting GPP option. He definitely has that high-end upside. He is Mr. Clutch more times than not. So would not be surprised if he goes out there and has a pretty strong game. Not my favorite play at the point guard position, but he definitely warrants some exposure, especially on a 2-game slate for a guy with as much upside that he does have just in general. Then we have Jalen Brunson, $8,300, probably going to be my favorite point guard play once again today. It is that pace-up matchup versus the Bucks, so definitely do like him, and he's played pretty well as of late. D'Angelo Russell, $6,800. Going to look like a decent play as long as he doesn't lose minutes tonight. The fact that he is point guard and shooting guard eligible helps him out just a little bit. Looking for, 34 out of him, averaging 33 on the season so far. If he goes out there, if he plays well, he's a guy that could definitely help break this slate just in general. Manuel Quickly, just a high upside GPP guy at $5,500, who you could play at shooting guard or point guard. Just depends on how many minutes he gets tonight. But if he goes out there and shooting the ball pretty well, could be very interesting. Then for Jordan Goodwin, if Eric Gordon misses, could be an interesting paydown option. And then Campaign, point guard, shooting guard eligible as the paydown option at $3,800, but probably not getting too many minutes tonight just in general. Then we move over to shooting guard. We got Devin Booker at the top, $10,400. Interesting GPP upside play. He does have that really high-end upside. He's coming off that injury, so we'll see how good he is in this game. We'll see how many minutes he can actually play in this game. Just kind of depends on a lot of factors there, but still warrants some exposure just in general. Move down to Chris Middleton, $6,100. Like I said on DraftKings, if he plays enough minutes, if he goes out there, plays 28 minutes, probably pays off at this price tag. If he plays 25, 26, probably not going to pay off at that price tag just in general. Austin Reeves, $5,900, warrants some consideration. Obviously, probably still coming off the bench, but if he goes out there, if he gets those closing minutes, could definitely pay off at this price tag, especially if he's out there shooting the ball well. And then we have Malik Beasley, $5,600. He's played really well lately, been playing pretty big minutes, so definitely warrants some consideration. More of a lineup filler than anything else at this point in time, though. And then we get down to Josh Hart, $5,000. Really don't mind him on FanDuel today. Definitely warrants some exposure. If he goes out there, if he gets that closing run, he's going to look even better. And then I really do like Grayson Allen at $4,900, $500 cheaper. If Eric Gordon's out, he looks even better because it pretty much guarantees his spot in that closing rotation just in general. So definitely do like him. He does offer a little bit of upside as well. Decent pay down spot. Same thing could be said about Cam Reddish at $4,800. Interesting pay down spot there. If he goes out and gets enough minutes, could definitely pay off at this price tag. Josh Okogie, if he gets to start at $4,400, is an interesting pay down option. We got Dante DiVincenzo here at $4,100. So kind of one of the big question marks for the Knicks today is probably going to be whether or not somebody gets cut from this rotation. It could be him, could be Quickly. I think Josh Hart's probably safe. Hartenstein, they're probably just going to need his backup minutes at the 5. So we'll see what happens there. But if he plays, if he gets 20 minutes, not going to look like a bad play at $4,100. Max Christie, another guy that could see his minutes cut today, but $3,900 definitely warrants consideration for a paydown option. And then Quentin Grimes, way down here at the bottom, is $3,600. Not a major advocate for him, but if he goes out there and he's shooting the ball well, if he can hit a couple early threes, stay in the game maybe a little bit longer, could definitely pay off at $3,600 just in general. But we'll get moved over to small forward now. So small forward is going to be pretty similar to DraftKings, although we do get Kevin Durant with small forward eligibility on FanDuel. Definitely do like him and LeBron at the top. They are kind of my 2 favorite pay-up options on the slate just in general. And then we move down to RJ Barrett, $5,700. Pretty reasonable price tag for him. You're only looking for 28, 29, averaging 27 on the season. Pace up spot versus the Bucks. If he's out there, if he plays a couple extra minutes, then this game's going to look really interesting. Then pretty much all these guys we kind of talked about at shooting guard. So there's a lot of overlap today just in general. Taurean Prince, $4,000. You only need 20 out of him to really pay off. He's going to look like one of the better value pay down options at this point in time. And then pretty much it, because I don't think we're getting to Marshawn Beauchamp at $3,600, probably only playing like 14 minutes in this game anyways. Taurean Prince is going to look really good. A lot of these guys at small forward do have versatility at other positions, so that makes it kind of nice just in general as well. Then we move over to power forward, and Giannis is all the way at the top, $12,200. It's really hard to get to him on this slate overall just with the lack of value. FanDuel's a little bit better value-wise, so maybe you can make it happen. Definitely don't want to full fade him because he could go out there and score 70 FanDuel points and really break the slate just in general. But, you know, there is some risk to playing him tonight. Anthony Davis does have power forward eligibility and center eligibility on FanDuel as per normal. $11,400. You need at least 57 out of him tonight. I think there's just better options that I'd rather play, you know, whether it's Kevin Durant, LeBron James. But definitely warrants some consideration as always. Julius Randle, $8,700. So he's the same price tag on both sites. You know, pace up spot versus the Bucks. Probably plays a couple extra minutes tonight and going to look pretty good just in general. Bobby Portis is $5,200. He's power forward. He's center eligible. GPP upside type of play. A little bit better pricing on the FanDuel side than over on DraftKings. Get down to Rui Hachimura and Jared Vanderbilt, both $4,200. Like I said on DraftKings, Hachimura did not play in their most recent game, although he was listed as available. So we'll see whether or not that makes a big difference. If you think he plays tonight, looks like an interesting paydown option. And then Jared Vanderbilt, just kind of an interesting paydown option. He is a guy that loves blocking shots, so could be a little bit more valuable on the FanDuel side just in general. Christian Wood, if you think he plays at $4,100, you could take a dart throw there, but probably not get into him just in general. Kenta Bates-Diop, you know, if he starts in place of Eric Gordon today, could be pretty interesting. That's just assuming that Eric Gordon's out, but I assume that even if Eric Gordon's out, Josh Okogie would get the start in that case. Isaiah Hartenstein, if you think Mitchell Robinson gets into some foul trouble at $3,900, you could definitely play him. A little bit more interesting just at that price tag and on FanDuel where you can play him at power forward and center. Same thing could be said about Drew Eubanks. And, you know, same thing. If Nurkic gets into foul trouble, it's going to look even better. Then we move over to the center. We got Joseph Nurkic here. $7,600, purely just a GPP upside type of player if you want to go there. Has not had the greatest games versus the Lakers so far this season. I like Brook Lopez a little bit better on FanDuel just for your block upside. $6,200. You're looking for 31 on him. That's what he's averaging so far in the season. You know, a little bit slower match versus the Knicks, but could be a good one for him overall. Then we have Mitchell Robinson, $5,800. Still really like him at that center position, especially if he gets a couple extra minutes and stays out of foul trouble tonight. So that's pretty much what we have in terms of centers for today overall. But with that being said, that is the breakdown for the FanDuel side as well as the DraftKings side. If you have any other additional questions related to NBA DFS, be sure to drop them down in the comments below and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. Also, be sure to note whether those questions are more FanDuel or DraftKings specific, just so I can best help you as quickly and efficiently as possible. And then as always, I will be listing all the injury updates throughout the day. Probably not going to be too many out there today, as well as the starting lineups for tonight. If you guys are kind of sick of the breakdown videos, we will have a traditional main slate tomorrow. So we'll be back to the core picks for tomorrow. And then Thursday, we'll be back to a breakdown video of the slate since it'll only be 2 games. And then Friday, we'll be back to the traditional core pick video. That's kind of the structure for the rest of the week. But with that being said, if you are brand new to my channel, checking it out for the very first time, or have yet to subscribe, please consider doing so. Definitely would appreciate it. Helps to build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports, which is one that's truly for you, the viewers, helping you with your DFS. Right now, we have NBA DFS videos Monday through Friday. Typically, they are the core pick videos, although we do have some full slate breakdowns a little bit more this week because of the in-season tournament. And then I do my NFL DFS player pool video on Saturday. That is typically released late Saturday morning or early Saturday afternoon. So definitely be sure to check that out if that's something you're into as well. I do post up my NFL DFS cheat sheets up on the sports affiliation website as well for DraftKings and FanDuel. And then last but not least, if you're interested in getting into sports betting, if you're interested in getting prop betting just in general, be sure to check out the links and promo codes down in the description below for BetUS, Parlay Play, and Prize Picks. If you are a brand new user to any one of those 3 sites, when you make your first initial deposit, you will get a first match deposit bonus. For Prize Picks and Parlay Play, that is up to $100. They match whatever you put in. And then on BetUS, it will be 125% of your initial deposit, up to $2,500. So some great opportunities there if you're interested in getting into sports betting or prop betting just in general. And then with that being said, if you have any questions about that whatsoever, feel free to reach out to me, whether it's down in the comments or on Twitter at Coach Craig Sport, and be more than happy to help you with that journey as well. But with that being said, that's all that I truly have for today's video. Definitely do appreciate each and every one of you tuning into this video. It definitely means a lot to me. I hope that each and every one of you have a great rest of your day and some pretty good luck in NBA DFS tonight.